Afternoon, Daniel.
No, Chris.
Afternoon, all. And we're having a yarn visually for the first time. As you can see, we've made a slight upgrade, and this bloke's lid is on camera for the first time. So I hope you enjoy that, because I certainly will. Now, it's a big one this week, Dan. It's the election special. The election's on the 2nd of July, this Saturday. And it's big for a number of reasons. And I think we're going to attack it in a few different areas. We're going to start off with the voters. In past elections, in recent times, it's been nothing short of just a reactive voting in terms of when a Prime Minister is in. If they don't deliver in a short amount of time, they're out, basically.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Chris. I think the electorate's becoming more and more volatile, and it's good to keep your leaders accountable, and I think that's the beauty of democracy. I mean, if the leaders aren't up to scratch, you vote them out. But I probably pose to you that things may have shifted too far the other way, where we've almost got this over-democracy, where people's expectations are so high they're unrealistic. And when politicians and leaders can't deliver to this unrealistic expectation, the opinion polls start to go down, and all of a sudden we get shafting of leaders, and that's why we've had 5 prime ministers in 9 years.
Would you say it's lazy, or would you say it's selfish?
I would say selfish is the appropriate word. Probably the best example I can give of that is if we rewind the clock to the 2013 election, where Tony Abbott was successful, and he wasn't successful by a few votes or a few seats. He was absolutely smashed the election.
Basically,
90 seats to 55. Had well over 52% of the primary vote. 1.5 million more Australians voting for it. A clear mandate from the people saying, we want you to govern. And one of the key things in that election was around fixing the economy and bringing debt under control.
Yeah.
That's what he was elected to do. He gets into government. His first budget, he tries to carry that out. He makes a few tough decisions, don't get me wrong, but
no one liked it, though.
Well, that's the key thing. I mean, they elected him to fix the budget mess, and then when he started to do that by, say, cutting some expenditure or trying to raise revenue through taxes or payments, excises, whatever it is, all of a sudden it was up in arms like he was trying to legalise rape. And I just don't understand how the voters thought that he was going to fix that without making those decisions. It's like they were expecting him to fix it overnight, but don't take anything off them and don't cut anything. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's an economic nursery rhyme, and you can't do that.
And of course, we'll bring an example into here. It's a $7 co-payment that he wanted to bring in for someone to go to the doctor. Now, $7, what's that? A loaf of bread and a carton of milk?
I think quite a modest.
One drink in the valley?
Yeah, literally. Up in arms, they were.
And it was social media right.
Yeah, but I mean, he couldn't get it through the Senate, admittedly.
Yeah, so it didn't go through. But it was just, that's one of the examples.
Yeah.
No one was expecting to make small, minuscule sacrifices.
That's right.
But he had to deliver a budget surplus in a
First budget, yeah.
In a year.
Yeah, completely unrealistic. So I think has shifted too far. As I said, good to keep people accountable and good to keep leaders accountable, but maybe the voters have got to start taking a bit of responsibility for why the leaders are changing so frequently.
Whether you're Labor or Liberal, get in there, vote, whoever gets in, back them. Give them a chance.
Give them a chance. Yep. Right.
Why has there been five Prime Ministers the last 9 years?
Yep.
No, they're scared. That's why there's so many ad campaigns about not what they're going to do, but what the opposition is not going to do.
Yeah.
Because it's we don't want to make any promises because they're not going to like it when we get in and we start delivering on them because they're going to cause issues.
Well, that's the thing. People that might have an agenda are scared to go and run that because of backlash from voters so quickly. I mean, it's a little bit scary, and I think the public, I've just gone too far, to be honest. And time will tell with this election.
They've got to take a bit of blame, really. They've got to take a bit of blame. Now, we're going to move on to the leaders themselves, Daniel. Bill Shorten, Malcolm Turnbull. Bill Shorten he's not really he's not really establishing too much, is he? He's not really laying down any foundations for his policies to sort of be delivered if he gets into the office. I've noted a few things when watching his ad campaigns. He'll go in there and he won't lay out what he's going to do. He won't say yes, and he won't back what he's going to do. It's what the LNP. We will do what the LNP won't do.
Yep, absolutely bang on. I think that's where he's come unstuck big time. He hasn't stated his case for why he is the alternative Prime Minister, why he should be the alternative Prime Minister. Well, he hasn't stated a very strong case, in my opinion, anyway. As you said, too busy trying to run fear-mongering scare campaigns about Medicare, about $100,000 degrees, about GST, which aren't even the government's policy, which Malcolm Turnbull's come out repeatedly and said that they are not our policy, 100% not committed to that.
Yet he's still
and he's continued it.
Still badgering.
I think he's got past the point of no return with some of those things, and he's just had to continue. But I reckon Joseph Goebbels would be pretty happy with the amount of propaganda he's spat up. And as I said, on things the government have completely ruled out, I think he's just trying to get a bit of a default type win, trying to get a soft win on the back of something that the government may or may not do later down the track. Yeah, I think he has to get back to some of his core policies, because he actually has some right policies. That's what's sort of hard for the average voter. He actually has an alright agenda. Yes, it's a little bit different to what Malcolm Turnbull wants to do, but hey, that's politics. So that's fine. Not everyone has the magic way of doing things. But he actually has some right policies. And I was sitting there watching a couple of his ad campaigns the other week, and I was thinking, he hasn't actually told me what he's going to do. I had to get on his website, on the ALP website, to look what he was actually about. Once I did that, I was like, well, this is actually alright. But yeah, to win it, I think he's got to shift the focus back to what he's going to do, get away from fear-mongering politics.
Well, that gets me on to I've got a question for you, Dan. If he was to make that leap, and if he was to pose a genuine threat, I mean, we know that the ALP are rank outsiders to win this thing.
$8 at the bookmakers.
If you want, $8 if you want to gamble. How can he get over the line? Is there anything major he has to do?
Well, I think he has to. I mean, we've only got a couple of days till the election, but as I was saying before, I think he's just got to shift the focus back to the Labor Party, to him, present his case for being the alternative Prime Minister, get away from what Malcolm Turnbull's doing, accept that you've got different policies and that's fine, lay yours out and lay it out clearly. That's the reason I think people are getting more behind Malcolm Turnbull. It's not so much is his policy right, it's more the fact that he's laid it out, it's clear, he's got a vision, it's positive.
If democracy runs its course,
exactly.
He doesn't get in,
then that's fine. So be it. Yeah, bang on. What have you made? Now we've had a bit of a chat about Bill. I want to ask you about the other side, Malcolm. He's trying to state his case for election, and some could argue that he's had to make a few trade-offs to get there. He obviously knifed Tony Abbott back in September of last year. And there's been some speculation that he's had to make some trade-offs with some of the ultra-conservatives in his party around some of the things that we know Malcolm really believes in, like climate change, same-sex marriage. He's done a little bit of a backflip on a couple of those things. Now he wants to go with a plebiscite, for example, for same-sex marriage. So has he sold out a little bit and lost credibility for you?
Well, yes, he has. In the short answer, yes. I think the right word to use is he's compromised.
Okay.
Because I don't think you can't get, as you said, you can't please everyone, especially in your own party. You need the backing of your party.
Absolutely.
If he's got some rock hard views, you got to find a way. Even if no one supports them, or if a few people don't support him, he's got to find a way to get the party behind him. And I think with a few compromises like he has, he was right. He was supporting gay marriage. Bill, the ultra conservatives didn't like it. So what did he do? He met them in the middle. Said let the public decide. What I don't agree with is we'll use that as an example, is it costs $160 million. So I think that, I mean, it's sort of just...
In one breath you're saying we've got a budget emergency, we need to pay down debt. In the next breath you're saying let's...
You're making it harder for yourself, when really we know what the answer's going to be. We know that 70% of Australians will vote for it, in recent polls. So...
And we'll get onto that.
Yeah, we'll get right on that. But like, cut the middleman out. That's sort of what I don't agree with. I think that what he's done well is to get his party behind him. I think he's a smart man. I think he's he getting his party behind him first, so he can get into office.
Yeah.
And then if anything changes, if when he gets in the office, he's the prime minister.
He would have been then elected by the people.
If he wants to make some changes to his own policies,
and
get rid of the plebiscite and whatnot, he's got the power to do it because he's the prime minister.
I think that's a good point. More compromise than a lack of credibility.
Exactly. Now we'll move on to the policies, Dan. This is a big point. This is where the election is going to be won or lost. They've had months and months of campaigning and laying out what they're going to do. Or in some cases, what they're not going to do.
Bill's case.
We'll run through the policies on the economy and mainly the tax cuts. That's been a major part of both campaigns.
Yep.
One of the big questions, I think, one of the big tests for both parties is what they're going to do to transition from that mining boom. I mean, it helped the Howard government through 10 years.
Yep.
Budget surpluses day in, day out.
Like they were going out of fashion.
Literally, day in, day out. Like, you're always going to, if you're delivering budget surpluses, you're always going to stay in office.
Yep.
Now that's all gone.
Yep.
And we've had 5 prime ministers in 9 years.
Holidays over.
Holidays over.
Yep.
So one of the big things that they've been looking at in this election is what's going to be the next, well, not the next mining boom, but how are they going to sort of try and generate
that growth?
The growth that, the same sort of growth, or there and thereabouts that the mining boom, sort of generate.
And Malcolm has really put that forward, hasn't he, with his innovation package that he announced in December last year.
Well, they both sort of did, though.
They did, but again, I think it filters back to that point. Why do we know about that Malcolm's caring about it? Because he's been advocating about it for months and months and months. In fact, he's been getting almost negative publicity for being too repetitive, but you'd almost rather that because he's at least laid it out. Everyone knows he's on about jobs and growth, and there's never been more exciting time to be an Australian, all the things he says. Yeah. It is a bit repetitive, but hey, at least the plan's there. He's got the policy in place, $1 billion in an innovation package that he put forward in December last year, really trying to incentivise people to be innovative and create those jobs of the future and create that new diversified economy, what you were saying. And with the company tax rate being cut from 30 to 25%, basic theory there that, less tax that the businesses have to pay, more money they've got to invest and hopefully employ more Australians. And again, the plan is quite clear, I think. So I think Bill's, when the Labor Party, while they're not necessarily supporting that, they're opting for, say, a small business tax cut, which, okay, that's all right. I'm not necessarily saying there's one way to do it, but, he hasn't been driving it as much.
Sort of been, driving the negatives of the LNP's policies, and which it works for certain people, but for people who really know what they're talking about, it's just fear-mongering.
It really is.
Now, I just want to get on to something, a fact that for all LNP voters, and it's a damning fact. They haven't delivered a budget surplus, Dan, in 27 years.
Yep, 1989, the last Labor budget surplus handed down.
If that's probably a call in any government, and they haven't delivered one in 27 years. So what? I'm a LNP voter. How are they going to convince me? How are they going to go, well, no, we will this time?
Well, they have actually put forward, in terms of their costings that they've brought out in the last week, they, under their modelling, claim that they'll be returned to the budget to surplus.
Surely they say that every time, though.
Exactly, in the same year as the government. But, I mean, if you were a punter, having a punter, and you picked up the form guide and you said
$400,000 to one.
Yeah, you would.
The rank outside. I just think,
and that's just a plain and simple fact. I know they've had the Rudd Gillard era had the global financial crisis to deal with, but we're going back 29 years, as you said, or 27 years. It's a long time, and I think a lot of voters know that the ALP have poor history with fiscal policy. And I think they have every right to put their faith in the LNP to manage that transition better on the basis of form and fact. Not form and fact.
To use a horse racing term.
Pretty simple. Yeah.
Good form. Border protection, another key. Really rammed home. Tony Abbott really loved it. He just loved this. Loved the border protection.
Yep.
It's been sort of transitioned into the Turnbull government. He was part of the Abbott government. Labor again.
Bit at sea, pardon the pun.
Yeah,
they're a bit at sea with this one, aren't they? Again, I think it's so similar to the surplus as well, and the management of the economy is they haven't got any form on it. There was a clear policy in place called the Pacific Solution that John Howard implemented and had in place throughout his whole tenure in government, and there were no arrivals, no illegal immigrants coming in.
And what it does, Dan, it directly impacts the economy. It's not just, not
send them away to be bad blokes.
Yeah, send them away. We don't want them in our country. This. It's we got to feed them. We got to house them.
A lot of them are unskilled, so they're going to be just sucking out welfare, not contributing, as harsh as it sounds, not contributing to our economy in any way with any skills.
And the ones that do will take Australian jobs, and then that's another issue.
Yep.
That people who they will complain about that. That's another issue. They'll complain about that, but they won't realise. They'll just say, "Oh, just stick him in, welfare. Stick him on welfare. Stick him in houses, housing commission, all this." But you're paying. The taxpayer pays for that.
Yep, that's right. That was a $12 billion. It cost the Australian taxpayer $12 billion with the amount of boat people that were let in under the last regime.
It's not just
not a rounding error.
No, it's not just a we don't want him in our country sort of thing.
We let 12,000 legal immigrants come here through the front door for lack of a better word, which I think is more than generous. We don't then need to be subsequently letting any more people in. Now, Bill Shorten claims that he's going to be tough on the border, but again, form guide doesn't look real good. The LNP, I think, have got much better form.
So there it is. I mean, if you want to, we're not advocating either side, but if you want to take the gamble, it's almost like, what have you got to go on?
Yeah.
How do you take that jump when you look at the form of the LNP, you look at the form of the ALP, and you got one here and one down here. You've got one choice.
Yep.
If that's the way you want to go.
1,300 children in detention when Tony Abbott takes office. Not one child in detention now. Numbers look pretty good, I reckon.
Speaks for itself. Last issue, quite a social one.
Yep.
Gay marriage, and for some reason, I don't think it should be this big of a political issue, but it has taken the front. Front of the front seat in the election, or one of the front seats in the election. I think, we spoke about the
plebiscite.
The plebiscite, sorry, that Malcolm Turnbull wanted to implement. Again, is it something that the voters have got to really have a look at each party's main points on it, or is it just a social? We want to do this. We think that should be.
That's the question, isn't it? So the Labor Party is saying we're not going to muck around with a plebiscite. We're just going to get it first thing. Second, we get elected. We're going to rush it straight through. The coalition are bouncing back and saying, well, why should 170 politicians in Canberra decide the fate of probably the most social issue facing the country? But flip side again is it's going to cost you $160 million which we don't have. So it is an important social issue, and a lot of developed countries getting on board. I think it is about time Australia got on board, but I would have to cite the way.
I don't think it should really impact voters, though. I think it should impact post-election.
But don't you think it has a reflection on where a country is at? Although it's not important, say, in terms of the economy and that, don't you think it's got that social... How could we look at a developed country like Australia with all these good systems, a good economy, good healthcare, good education, and we can't let gay people get married? Don't you think that's just a socially non-progressive, backward thing to have in an otherwise developed country?
Yeah, look, as we said before, Malcolm Turnbull really is he's compromising, but he's also shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would agree with you, and I would tend to be siding the way of the ALP on this one. I think
they're cutting the middleman out and making it easy for people to go, yep, when they get in, this is going to happen.
Yep.
It's not when they get in. Now it's going to be months and months and months of referendums, plebiscites.
Yep. More money
$160 million
spent. And then you've also got the other argument,
time.
is there going to be backlash when the plebiscite's done towards the gay community that potentially...
and if it doesn't pass...
And if it doesn't pass...
Watch out.
You've sort of tied it off, haven't you? So, yeah, I think Bill, he's got this one right. I'm going to side the way of the ALP on that issue. I think it should just be enacted. Cut the middleman out, save money, move on.
Now, believe it or not, we found a best bet in the election special. Daniel?
Well, I've been harping on about this for months and months. I finally get to lay it out.
The funny thing is you have.
I've been harping on about it for months and months. I've been tracking the betting quite closely, Chris, on this one. So it's for an individual seat in tomorrow's election. It's a seat of New England in New South Wales.
2 days' time, sorry.
2 days' time, sorry, yeah. So it's currently held by the National Party, so the Liberal National Coalition. Barnaby Joyce is the holder of that seat. Holds it by a 19.6% percentage margin, which is so probably one of the safest seats in the election. So it would take a massive swing away for him to get beaten. It's been a typically quite a conservative seat for a number of years. The Labor Party's only ever held it once, and a sprinkle of independents throughout history, but mainly a very conservative seat. And the biggest threat to Barnaby Joyce is an independent running called Tony Windsor, and he used to have the seat, I think in 2010, and that was in the hung parliament. And he was one of the ones that decided the balance of power in that hung parliament, and he sided the way of Julia Gillard, who's Labor, and you're coming from a conservative seat. Very interesting decision. I reckon the voters are really going to take this bloke to the cleaners. No chance in the world the Deputy Prime Minister is going to be getting rolled. $1.30 short.
Especially when Barnaby's got a 90% head start.
Yep. Even if there is a little bit of a swing against him, nowhere near enough for him to get.
And it's pretty short, isn't it, Dan?
$1.30. But I've never seen anyone go broke collecting returns. So I'm giving that double thumbs up for tomorrow.
Double thumbs up.
Have you found one?
Yeah, look, I found one, Dan. I'm going in the seat of Petrie in Queensland.
One of the marginal ones that's been really
and there's always going to be a swing. There's going to be a swing in the voting, but recent polling suggesting, Dan, that it's not going to be uniform in Petrie.
Yep.
And it's one of the tighter ones out there now. And I think Luke Howarth is his name. Sorry, Luke Howarth. He's
Liberal.
His coalition. $2.75, and he's holding the seat. Very marginally.
Yep, I think it is the most marginal seat in the country. It's about 0.4%.
But $2.75, and it's a hotly contested seat now. As I said, there is going to be a swing. That can be changed greatly on election day. But they're talking like this is going to be one of the tighter ones. And I've seen longer odds.
Yes, and one of the key things today to really support that bet was the Labor Party almost not conceding, but they didn't really blitz the area and try and campaign hard like they had been previously, almost as if they'd conceded and they went off to other marginal seats to try and campaign almost. So I can't believe the 2.75's held up on Sportsbet, but
against $1.40, you got to take the value, and I'm giving it one thumbs up.
Lovely.
So look,
that's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap for our first visual yarn. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. The election special. Let us know your thoughts. After on Saturday, after the election.
Doesn't matter who you vote for.
Doesn't matter who you vote for. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know. If you got down there and had a crack.
And who you're voting for and why.
Yeah, please do. So, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Happy punting.